Good morning, CIS students. On Monday, I sent you a video, telling you how to create a database using Microsoft Access. And I provided you some information, and that information was in Microsoft Excel. And then we wanted you to learn how to put this information in Access. Let me open a database, which is here. This is Microsoft Access, and it is a blank screen, and there is here is written table 1, and I decided to put the names of the criminals in here. And what we did is that we used the first person. We said it was Al Capone and his age, and it is good to learn how to put these things individually. And because in Excel, in Access, when you are using it, you might not have the information nicely organized for you in this Excel format. All you have to do is to put them one by one. Imagine that the cops catch the criminals, they bring them to you, and you are a secretary. You just put their first name, last name, and those things. Now, one student asked, is there any way we can have a shortcut? And rather than using this name that we can print it and type the names one by one, can we copy and paste this into Access? The answer is yes. And my recommendation is, learn what we are trying to do here. But when you are creating that, database for the FBI, we want you to type the names one by one. That way you learn how to enter the names and information. Here in Excel, as you know, we call each one of these as column A. This is column B, which is here, column C, and we call this as row. This is row, suppose 3, row 4, and we have, therefore, in Excel, we have rows and columns. In Access, I will tell you, we don't use the term rows and columns, but let me see if I can copy this and paste it in Excel without, I highlight, because first name, first, last, do you see? I highlighted. I didn't highlight list of criminals. I didn't highlight the green part of it, because this is what the yellow and the names of the criminals I want to copy to Access. After I highlight, I click Control C. Control C means copy. It means I hold on with one finger to control, with another finger I press the C button. That controls, and some of you might use as right-clicking and clicking copy. Now I bring my Access, and then here is my first, box here. I right-click. Do you see? I come at the bottom and I say paste as fields. Fields means columns. And do you see all of them in one shot were brought here, and we saw that all the information was brought in with one shot, which that's what one of the students was asking. And that we did that, let's not forget that we did it through copying and pasting. What is the benefit of doing something like this? Is, for example, you are working as a good secretary for the FBI. You have the names of criminals. You imagine you work for a state of West Virginia. You have the names of all the criminals in Access. Another person, suppose in another state, in let's say state of Maryland, by mistake, rather than putting the names of criminals in Access, that employee has put them into Excel. Therefore, you can go and bring those with one shot by highlighting it and by using Control C and going to Access, and then suppose clicking here, and then of course since I pasted once, it doesn't allow me to paste again. Therefore, you learned about the concept of copying something from Excel and bringing them to Access. Do you all remember in Excel we call these as columns? In Access, we call them records. This is the records regarding first name. These are the records regarding last name. Therefore, these are called records. I'm sorry, we call them fields. This field is called, field first name, field last name, field age, and the rows are called records. Therefore, in Access, we call this as field. This is another field. Therefore, these are fields, and in this field, one record is about Al Capone, and this is, therefore the terminology that is used in Excel and Access differ, but the concepts are the same. What we did here, we copied and pasted, we copied and pasted. And another student was asking, can we export? Exporting is a different concept than copying and, pasting. Let me show you how I would export this information without using copying and pasting from Excel to Access. Let me show you how I would do it. Do you see this here? Just for simplicity, because let's not forget, these are two tables we have here. This is one table, and this is another table. Imagine I only want to, export this into Access, or let's say import into Access. When we say importing, means I have to go to Access, and from Access I request that this information from Excel to be imported, to pulled over Access. In order to do that, I need to organize this and make it a little bit clear. I come here, and then from the same way, I copy this one. This time I'm not copying it into Access. I am copying it into a new sheet in Excel. And look at here, when I come here, I paste it here. Now I have a nice clean sheet. This clean sheet, the name is sheet 3. Do you see that? That has the same information. And now I'm going to write the rename. Doesn't matter. I can rename it. I can leave it the way it is. Let me right click, and just to show you rename, I am going to rename it. And this is something I want to, I can choose any name. And let's call it import me to Access. Therefore, this Excel sheet wants you to import this sheet from Excel to Access. Okay, I go to my Access. And this time, let me close this table 1. I click no. Okay, we don't have anything for now. And then what I am going to do this time, do you see here it says external data, which means I want to get an external data. Why it is an external data? Because this program that I opened is Microsoft Access. The data that I have, this data is sitting on Excel, which is on my desktop. Therefore, let me show you if I can find it in my, here it is, Excel sheet for database in the middle. That information is sitting there. Therefore, while I am in my Access, I want to do something. I want to, I don't want to export. Export means sending from Access to Excel. I don't want to export it. I want to import it, which means a new data source, which I want the data comes from a file. That file is, is from, do you see, comes from Excel. Do you see the picture of Excel here? Here means from Excel, there is a green arrow, means bring that Excel for me into Access. I click here and it is asking me, what do you want? Where is that information? It is asking where that information is. I have to say it is on my desktop. And here I see this button, not this one, not this one. This one is linked, is highlighted. Import the data source, means import the Excel into a new table in current database. That's what I want. Now I click Browse. It is asking you, where is the information that I want to import? It is sitting on my desktop, and I called it Excel sheet for database. I double click on it, and then I click OK. What it is asking me, there are several sheets in my Excel. One of them is called Import Me to Access. Do you remember? That's the one I want to bring from database, from the Excel to Access. I click Import Me. When I import, do you see it's going to import first name, last name, age, state, male or female? And then, but there is an unfortunate thing in here, because if I bring this one to Microsoft Access, it doesn't understand that here where it says first, that is the column name, that is, the field name. It thinks that this first is one criminal whose first name is first, and there is another. The same criminal has its last name as last. It looks at the first row the same as what it is looking at the second row, which is Al Capone there. Therefore, when I click next, here, I click here. Do you see it says first row contains column heading? By clicking there, I am telling the Access to consider this first, last, age as the as the records, as the field. Your field means column. Therefore, when I click here, do you see it? It first becomes, the heading, first heading, last becomes second heading. That's exactly what I wanted. Therefore, I click next, and I click next, and I click next, and I click finish, and I click close. Do you see Import Me to Access? When I click here, as you see, all of them were brought in here, and fortunately the first and last, these became the headings of each field. As I said, the heading in Access is called field. The heading in Excel, we called it heading column. And then here we have, in Excel, we have rows, this is a row. And then we do similarly, we have, we have records. Instead of calling it, rows, we call it, a different name. Therefore, that is the way we import it here. There is another thing that we can export. Do you see here? Now this information, as you all know, came to Access. Can I send this one from Access to Excel? In that case, do you see here? It says there is a database in the back and says send it to Excel. It will transfer it to Excel. This is a very good way of getting data from another source. Why it is a good, information? Imagine that there is another database. We have the database of the FBI. The CIA might have its own database. Therefore, can we go and merge the database of the CIA and bring it into the database of FBI? Yes, the same way. The same way we go here and say a new data source from the database. Do you see this time we don't say from the file, bring it from the Excel, from database, and then here from Access it comes in here. Do the companies do that? Yes. Why do they do that? Let me give you two examples. Some of you students are not in this area. You are from another area of West Virginia, but some of the students are local here. And these students here were witnessed a bank here. Its name was Summit Bank. It went and merged with another bank, which is called Burke and Herbert in Virginia. When these two banks merged, that means one secretary, they had a database for customers for Summit Bank. There was another database in Virginia that was for their own customers. Now, if we merge these two banks, we have to find a way to bring an external data to, suppose here, what they did is that Burke and Herbert went and said, please went in here, for example, and then went from database, and then from Access, for example, brought the information of all of their customers to, Summit Bank, and they merged it, and now they are one bank rather than two different banks. This concept happens over and over again in companies, in organizations. Imagine that, I know that we had a hospital here. Imagine that this hospital suddenly became a part of the hospital of WVU, West Virginia's hospital. Therefore, in order to do that, they constantly merge this database. Therefore, the concept of database is very important because we use that regularly for query. Hopefully, I can put next week, I can put, another video to show you about other features of Access. But for now, I just wanted you to understand the concept of importing and exporting. And let's not forget, imagine that you might decide to transfer something from Access, for example, to text file, to Microsoft Word. You can do that, you use this one. Therefore, this is, getting external data. Sometimes I might go and get an external data from, a website and bring it to Access because I can, or to Excel because I can analyze it. Imagine we had a bookstore. As many as 50 books are listed on the database of the bookstore. If I wanted to bring those from the website of the bookstore to the college, to my Access or Excel, that way I can analyze it. Let me see if I can show you that. I would have gone in here and I would have gone to Eastern website, for example. I would have gone to bookstore, for example, and I would have find course materials. And then suddenly, do you see there are many books in here that suppose Eastern West Virginia Community College? Many of you are lucky that you are not ordering books from here anymore, because many years ago, 2 years ago, we used to, order our books. There are many books in here that I wanted to see if I could bring. Then I could say bring information from an, outside source. Maybe it would have told me, it would ask me, where is that outside source? Maybe this is the outside source, this link. Then I would have gone to Access and I said that get an external data, suppose file, I click here back, and then I would have external source, and then maybe from online services. Do you see? Because that online was our books were online, or I might get it from somewhere else, Salesforce, or from somewhere, SharePoint, or other source. What other source is? This is QBC, or the Open Database, open an Outlook folder. That means even it can come from Outlook. Hey, how nice it is. You might have 1 million emails in your, 10,000 emails. Maybe I can bring suddenly those emails to Access and do some, research. Why doing some research? Because when they are here, I can go and do my, I can click here and suddenly put the query result. Imagine that you have 1 million emails from different organizations. 20, 50 of them are from one of your friends. You don't, whose name is John Doe. You don't have time to to spend to go through 1 million emails, and you can bring it here and do analysis and do search and find out from which one was from. You see, we can decide which criminals was from by using query. You can bring them into the database and figure out. I want to show you one more thing I haven't shown you regarding the database that might help you to understand a little more. And one thing is that, as you all know, this is a table. This table has, as the headings, which is first, last, and each field, each, also has row. These rows, columns, that is our terms we use in Excel. Then I want you to know that you are in some kind of view here that we call it data sheet view, because this is sheet. As you know, in Excel you called it sheet. There is another view for this site that we call it view, and we call it, when I click on view, design view. Design view for this table, you already saw in my previous email, you saw that the design view for query. I haven't shown you the design view for the table. I click on design view here. This is how the design view of the Access looks like. And do you see here, it says male or female? You all know ID here was generated. Think about ID as, for example, Social Security of criminals. And first name of someone is a text. Last name is a text again. But Access, it recognized, when I put age, recognize that the age is a number, which is a good idea to recognize the name as age as a number, because I can go and say greater than 40 years if I want to catch criminals who are 40 years. If I go and change this one to text, for example, short text, then Access won't be able to recognize when I put the age of the criminal greater than 40. Therefore, it is a good idea to consider this one as number. Now, female, male, and female, we consider this as a short text, but that was not a smart idea. You know why? If I would go here and change this one from short text to, as you might have guessed, it's asking you which one of these should we choose, male or female. Is it a short text? Is it a long text? Is it a number? No, it is not. Is it a large number? No. Is it a time? Currency? No. I could have a column for currency, like how much each FBI agent is being paid. If I say $40,000 a year, that could become currency. But for the person is male or female, I can say yes or no. Let's say if you work for a hospital, you want to know if the person has an insurance. Therefore, that in that case, you declare that as yes or no. Let me show you what's the benefit of when we say yes or no in here. After we change it to yes or no, and I go to view, and I go to data sheet view, and I click yes, and I click yes, and click yes. Do you see now male or female? It created something like this for me to make my life easy. Al Capone was a male. Bonnie was a female. Therefore, it says male or female, a question mark. It is male. Then let me say male and then question mark. Is it a male Clyde? Yes, male. Pablo Escobar? Yes, male. El Chapo? Male. Therefore, I want you to understand that each table has a design, has a view, that in view, it can be a design view as well. When you create, you understood, when you create a query also has a design view. Form has a design view, and report has a design view. Each one of them, each view, each design allows you to change the design of what a query allows you to run query. Who are the people who are from Texas? In case of IRS, suppose in case of query wizard, IRS wants to know who are the people who have not paid their taxes. Did they pay their taxes? Yes or no? And then the people who haven't paid their taxes, IRS goes and runs a query, for example, and comes here and brings everybody here. And imagine here, it clicks OK and it clicks finish. It goes to this is a query now. They goes to here IRS and goes here and goes to the design view and says male or female. Imagine that it was male or question mark. Males get yes, females get no. I put no, which means I am looking only for people who are not male. And I run query, or the IRS wants to know who are the people who did they pay their taxes or no? Who are the people who didn't pay taxes in the state of West Virginia? And then they run the query, and the query, suppose I have most likely I put El Chapo as as a female. That's why it put it brought it up. But I want you to understand this concept, and I just discussed this issue since one of the students asked if they could how they exporting an information and importing information to Excel Word to Access Works. You can send information from Access to Excel, from Excel to Access, from different, maybe Word, if you organize it in Word in such a way that is in kind of organized way. Because if I open a Microsoft Word in here, and then if it is a Word, and I put, suppose, Al Capone here, it won't be and then I put his age as 40, and then put, suppose, state of Texas. The access might get confused. However, if I put a comma here, then I am organizing it in such a way that it recognizes. Then when I come to second person, when let's imagine the second person is El Chapo, I put El Chapo, and then I put a comma, and his age is 45, state, suppose Colombia, for example, Mexico, for example, Mexico. In this case, Access doesn't look at this just as pure Microsoft Word. It looks at it as some kinds of organized way. These commas are organizing it. Maybe in this case, I can export or import, import this one from Word to Access, because now it has become in the form of a very organized way. Therefore, as I said, Access and Access, Excel and Access have the capabilities of importing, and even Excel might have, they will have, a capability of bringing. If I click data, do you see it says get data? Means I can get data from Access, and I can bring that table of criminals from Access to Excel. Imagine if I didn't have this one in here, I could bring that one from Access. I could copy and paste or get, external data, from a database. Do you see that? And then I could go and find my FBI, and from there bring it to here.